Hello everyone, I wanted to do a video today regarding this Gibson 335 satin semi-acoustic guitar. Now this is a 2021 model. I got it in June, but it was made January 2021, so I've only owned it for about 6 months. But it is about a year old. Now I went for the satin because it's different and it is lovely. At the time there was around about £2,500, £2,600. I've since done a search and it's up there on one site, the back site, for £2,099, though I've never seen it for that price. When I was looking for one, it was never that cheap, and it's out of stock, so whether they was ever that cheap, I don't know. They were quite difficult to get hold of last year, and I think they're even more difficult this year, so I shouldn't think they'd be putting the prices down that far. But like I say, this is the satin model. It's lovely. It really is gorgeous. Now, I was really happy when I got this. If I turn it around for you, just so you can see what the back's like. There's the back. I'm going to try and get it close. I'm not sure whether you can see it. It's not totally dull, but it's not as shiny as the glossy finish ones. Lovely neck on it. There you go. Lovely tuners. Everything's beautiful on it. It feels nice. Plays nice. I did get some Scala strap locks with it, but I've not put them on. Let's take it back round to the front. Yeah, back round the front. Let's give you some specs. It's obviously made in the UK. 22 frets. It's a rosewood fretboard. All maple, I believe. Front, back, and the block as well. Centre block's maple as well. The colour is burst, but it's a satin finish. It's a beautiful guitar. Tunematic bridge, tailpiece as usual. They're on these. It's got them lovely thumb bleeders, they call them, the volume knobs. Lovely binding on it. It's a thin line body, they call it. The binding is beautiful on it. Maple and poplar, I think the wood is. Soundboard's 3-ply maple and poplar, sides are the same. The bracing apparently is spruce. Now, the pickups are T-type, lead humbucker and a rhythm humbucker. But, as I say, a beautiful guitar. Now, I bought this because I've always wanted a Gibson. Always. And when I bought it, I wasn't disappointed at all. It sounded lovely in the shop. And I had to have it in the end. So, I finally got my wish. Now, I repair guitars, buy, sell and swap guitars. So, a lot of guitars pass through my hands. Not so many Gibson 335s. A lot of Gibson Les Pauls, but not so many Gibson 335s. And I've always wanted one. So I finally got one. And like I say, I wasn't disappointed. But then, towards the end of the year, something came up. Look at this beauty. This is obviously the gloss finish. But lovely guitar. And the fretboard you might think looks a bit dry, but it's actually an Epiphone. And it's the new Inspired By range. This is brand new. This is literally about 2 weeks old. But the original one that turned up on my doorstep for a repair was exactly the same. Now the problem with it was the neck pickup had stopped working, and he thought, sod it, and wanted burst buckers put inside it. So I took it in, I took out the wiring, which is tricky in these, and it was just a dry joint. The neck pickup had just come off. So I resoldered it on, put it back together, and it played like a dream. So I rang him up and I said, are you sure you want me to put burst buckers in this? Because I've got it working. And he said, yep, he wants burst buckers in it. But I was blown away, not only by the looks of this guitar, but by the fact it sounded so good. Now, a lot of this is exactly the same as a Gibson. It's maple wood, back and sides. It's a thin line, like the Gibson. They got rid of that horrible E on the scratch plate, and they've put a Gibson style scratch plate on it. The thumb bleeder's not there, but not hard to add those, is it? The bridge is slightly different. It's the Epiphone bridge. But, so what? This is actually a laurel fretboard, not rosewood like the Gibson. That's why it looks a bit dry, but it's not. It's just a lighter colour. It's a Graphtec new bone nut, which I'm sure is what's on the Gibson, even though it just says Graphtec for the Gibson, but I'm sure it's the same nut. Same medium jumbo frets. And the pickups are Pro Bucker pickups. But like I say, I was absolutely blown away by how close this looked to a Gibson. I spotted it straight away that the bridge was different, obviously, but if you put a Gibson bridge on this, it would look exactly the same. Now let me show you the back of this guitar as well, just so you've got the full picture of it. There you go. It's stunning. Really is a beautiful guitar. This has got Epiphone Deluxe tuners on it, and the Gibson's got Gibson Deluxe tuners on it. But now you've seen the back, let's turn it back round. There you go. Even the neck has got binding on it. Which you don't normally get. This model replaces the dot. Well, I mean, it's all over the dot. The dot doesn't even bear in comparison to this one. This is absolutely stunning. The hardware on these as well is like much better quality than normal Epiphone quality. And it's absolutely stunning. I mean, these wasn't out when I was looking for my Gibson. And I've had Dots, Sheratons, all sorts of things pass through my hands. And after repairing that one, I thought, I've got to get one just to put it in comparison to this Gibson that I own. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to put it side by side with the Gibson. Apart from this one being gloss and the other one being satin, which you can't get these in satin. It looked and felt great. But is it identical? Is it better or worse? So I'm going to go through it. First we'll go with the Gibson route. And we'll go all over it, test it all out properly. So what I'm going to do first of all is just go through the differences, or the sames, depending on what they are. You're going to get my ugly mug in these pickups, all distorted. But the knobs on this one, like I say, hasn't got the thumb bleeders, but they're not a lot. The knobs feel okay, quite sturdy. CTS pots in this. Lovely. They're the same, I'd say. Not a lot in it, if they are different. They look the same. and they certainly feel the same. The switch is slightly different. This is quite long, this one, and it's got a different nut. This one's quite short. See that? I think you see the difference there. Try and get you in. And this one, just a bit longer. Standard switch though. As I said, the Epiphone has got CTS pots in it. I'm sure this has got the same. Doesn't actually say on the specifications, but I'm sure it has. Now this stop bar and bridge is tunematic, the same as the one on the Epiphone. Only on the Epiphone that's going to be metric because it's Chinese, and on this one here it's going to be imperial due to it being American. Aluminium, try and say it, with a chrome finish, or nickel finish, sorry, and this just say nickel finish. So whether that's pure nickel, I don't know what it is, you know, whether that's just cast or what, but it could be slightly different. The scratch plate, they look pretty similar. That could be a 3-ply possibly, and that's a 5-ply possibly. So it could be, I think that's 5-ply. This looks like a 3-ply to me, but it's nice and thick and sturdy, so yeah, you wouldn't tell the difference. Ooh. It's hard to film this, but look, it's even got the same connection, albeit a bit cheaper looking. It's just slight differences. See that? But you wouldn't notice that unless it was up against it. So the pickups are different, but we'll give them a run for their money soon. Laurel fingerboard with a Graphtec new bone nut, and this one's rosewood. It just says Graphtec nut. I'd say it was exactly the same. And it's got deluxe Gibson tuners, this one, as opposed to the Epiphone. Ooh, deluxe, which feel exactly the same. They feel the same. I don't know whether it's like that, and the scratch plate and the knobs feel ever so slightly different, but I don't know whether it's just because that says Gibson, so you want it to feel different. But there's not a lot in it, if there's anything. I don't know whether it's just psychological. But pretty much the same. It feels the same. The body obviously is glossy, but it feels the same weight, the same. I think that's a slightly different shape. Or there, maybe. Is that a slightly different shape? That one there to that one there. Ever so slightly, I think maybe, but I'm not sure. There you are, let's go. I don't know, it could be ever so slightly. I know the binding's slightly wider on the front. You see that here? And it's slightly thinner here. Stands out more. But they're both single ply cream. That's a different colour, but like I say, this is obviously glossed. So there's not a lot in it there either. There really isn't a lot in it when you pick it up. Both have got a rounded C neck, they say, which is like a 50s one. This is really a copy of, inspired by, as a copy of a 50s Gibson. Now this is probably 50s spec as well. But they've both got rounded C necks, even though in the hand this one feels bigger. This one does feel bigger. This one, yeah, it feels just thinner, just slightly thinner, not surrounded at the back. This one comes out a bit more like a D, this one. It's more like a, yeah, this is more of a C. I'd call that a rounded C. This one, but it's like a Gibson neck. This is really taken on a Gibson feel. The Epiphones used to be really big or really thin. They had nothing really in the middle. But that one there feels like a Gibson neck. I would say that was a Gibson neck if I was blindfolded. And this one is just a bit of a bigger Gibson neck. Not quite a D, but not just a bit bigger than a C, a rounded C. Even though they're both pertaining to B, a rounded C, this one definitely feels a bit thinner and a bit more comfortable, to be honest. To me, personally. Now, these are pearloid inlays, and these ones are just acrylic. Even though they look more pearloid than these, but no, they're acrylic fret dots and pearloid fret dots, but they're just dots. Okay, so that's really the sames and the differences. Let's turn them around and have a quick look. Now again, popular maple. Popular, I should say, not popular, even though they are very popular. Popular maple. This one says maple. I don't know where it's got any popular in it. The centre blocks are both maple, I think. And this says it's got spruce struts in it. Bracing. And I would assume that's got the same. But it doesn't actually say on the specs. This looks like a one-piece neck. Now it could be a join just before the headstock there, but I don't think so. I think it's a one-piece. I think it's handcrafted, as it says. It looks like a one-piece neck. Whereas this one is definitely a one-piece neck, because it hasn't got all the gloss on. You can actually see it. Beautiful grain. Beautiful grain. And it feels lovely in the hand, which is why I bought it. It just felt different and lovely. Like I say, they just say Gibson Deluxe, and these ones are Epiphone Deluxe. Now I know the colour isn't great on these. I don't know how well that's coming over. The colour's just a bit different, but they feel the same. Marginally better, these ones, but again, it could be psychological. But as the turning goes, the gear ratio and the turning and the tuning of the tuners, exactly the same. They're both brilliant tuners. So there we have it. Now, on first impressions, I can honestly say the thing that drew me to this guitar, apart from obviously the Gibson name and me always wanting one, was the satin finish. It's so different, and it feels lovely. It feels really ergonomic, if I can explain it like that. It just feels lovely in the hand. It really does. And obviously, when I plugged it in and played it, it was brilliant. Now, the one I played in the shop wasn't the one I actually bought. The one I actually bought, when it turned up, needed about an hour and a half spent on it to set it up. It was set up terrible. The neck needed adjusting, which I can see it could be done with the travel and the different climates. But I mean, the action was awful on it. It wasn't good at all. And I had to spend, like I say, about an hour and a half setting it up. But that, to me, is beyond personal preference. I mean, I've got a personal preference, and I do normally have to set up guitars when I get them out of the box. But this was unplayable. You couldn't play it out of the box, which I found was absolutely disgusting from a Gibson. But once set up, plays like a dream, like it did in the shop. Better than the one in the shop. It was beautiful. But it's a Gibson. But like I say, the quality control for the setup, disgusting. This one, when it turned up, you could play right out of the box. I did set it up for me, because like I said, I've got a personal preference, which most of us have. But you could play this out of the box. Just tuned it up and it played fine. So I spent about 20 minutes just fine tuning the setup. So out of the box, the Epiphone wins, hands down. If they'd have done this in a satin, I'd have bought it. But obviously they don't. It just comes in a gloss. Not that I'm against the gloss, I just prefer the satin. But that's the only thing so far that I prefer between these guitars. The fact that that's satin. But other than that, the Epiphone's winning for me. Which is astounding, considering that's £2,500, near enough 2,600. And that is just under £500. Even at their most expensive, it's only £7. So, literally a quarter of the price, less than that. Blew me away. So, I'm going to put it through its paces now. the feel of it, and do some sound tests for you. And I won't tell you until the end which one I prefer sound wise and playability wise, and I may even do some blind testing for you so you can think for yourselves and see which one you prefer. But at the moment, I'd choose the Epiphone over that Gibson, which blows me away. It's a bit of a gutter considering what I spent on the Gibson. Anyway, I'll be back with some sound samples. Now I'm going to start with the Gibson. Just take that tuner off. So it's the Gibson that we're starting with. Okay, now I'm going to use exactly the same settings on the amp. I'm not going to touch the amp. All I'm using is a spark amp. Bit of bite to it. First of all, because I want to be able to turn it down. Just back it off. Till it cleans up. So we'll try a clean sound. That backs off lovely. Till about 7. That's on 10. Back it to 7. Lovely and clean. So it does clean up nice. Now I'm not going to go through and play exactly the same on each one. I'm just going to noodle about. And that's on the bridge pickup. That's my bad playing. So that's the bridge pickup. Then we go to the middle. We'll roll that back to 7. Cleaned up nice again. Now all I've used on this is just a little bit of gain on the amp and just some reverb. I've not put anything, no pedals on it, because I just want to get the sound of the actual guitar. There we go on the neck pickup. Turn up to 10 first. Back it to 7 again. Lovely. Beautiful sound. Now we'll rock it up a bit. This is just gain. This is on 10 on the bridge. Middle. So that sounds lovely. That's just a quick overall, just bang on it. I'm just going to just do exactly the same with the other one. I'll change over to the Epiphone next. Exactly the same settings on the amp and see how that comes through. You can decide for yourself. I won't tell you till the end. Playability wise, obviously, plays lovely. Feels gorgeous. No sharp frets, obviously. And it just feels lovely. Feels lovely in the hand and it's just real solid. But it plays absolutely like a dream. Just like a Gibson should. So here we are back with the Epiphone. I must admit, similar weight. I'll get the weight and put that up. But it feels similar. Maybe it's a little bit heavier, the Gibson. Exactly the same settings on the amp again. Everything up full. I'm just going to roll it back now until it clears up. That clears up a lot quicker. That's on 10. And straight away I can hear it's not as growly. Instead of going down to 7, if I get down to 9, cleans up on 9. I think I messed up in exactly the same place again. First impression, sounds nice, a bit brighter and a bit weaker. Not as powerful. That comes alive. Roll that back. That's on 8. So the neck on 8, the bridge on 9. Sounds gorgeous. As you can tell, I'm only using the mic on this phone that I've got on the camera, so which is how I do all my videos. You will notice the difference, but I've used the same mic on both, and this definitely sounds a bit tamer. In the neck. Yeah, definitely a lot tamer, but still nice and mellow and bluesy. Now I'm going to put some distortion, well not distortion, the gain full up on it like I did on the other one. There's nothing rolled back now. Middle. talking, and the neck. Nothing wrong with that. Middle. Try the bridge. But put a bit of gain on it, she comes alive. That don't sound too bad to me. I mean, the feel of it is definitely thinner. I don't know why. You're saying it's the same measurements, but it's not. This is thinner. Definitely, it feels thinner. It's easier to play to a certain extent, is it? I don't know. It just feels like it's smaller, that's all. Okay, if I'm absolutely honest, because this is a gloss finish and the Gibson was a satin, you do move better on the satin. So that would be a little bit easier to play. So it's got the edge. Sound wise, I think it's more growly, the Gibson, where this one's not as, if you get my drift. What I think I'll do is some blind samples, but I'll put it in a mix so you can get them, and then you can try and guess which one it is. That'll probably be the best thing to do. I'm still not going to say which one I prefer. Like I say, weaker is a wrong word for it. They're just not as growly. Okay, but bluesy wise, once you get to the neck pickup on a clean sound, is beautiful on this. But as it is on both of them, none of them are bad. I'm still blown away by this guitar. I'm still blown away by it. Up against each other, I know which one's got the edge. I'm not going to let you know just yet. But like I say, I'm going to put them in a mix now, and then do a blind test for you. And then you can try and guess which one you like best, and which one's the Gibson, and which one's the Epiphone. So in conclusion, the only winner for me is the Epiphone. I don't know which one you chose from the sound test, or whether you guessed correctly which one was the Gibson and which one was the Epiphone. But there are slight differences, obviously. It says Epiphone instead of Gibson. The tuners are exactly the same in my eyes. They might say Epiphone Deluxe on there, but they feel exactly the same. The nut is exactly the same. There's binding. Alright, it doesn't go over the fret ends, but that's smooth enough anyway. So who needs them over the fret ends? And as they wear, they cause problems over the fret ends anyway. You get gaps between the fret and the binding. So that can be a problem. There's a lot of problems on SGs and the old 335s with that. But that's the only difference between the binding. I mean, the binding still looks exactly the same as the Gibson binding. I mean, you've got the satin part of the Gibson, which makes it feel better, definitely. But to me anyway, some people prefer the gloss. I mean, I chose that for the satin. It's the first ever satin Gibson I've ever had. I mean, I've had the natural ones, but that's different. This one, it just feels different. The Gibson, it does feel lovely, I must admit. So feel wise, it feels better than this guitar. Playing wise, it's a bit easier to play, I suppose. I suppose a little bit, but whether that's just psychological because it's a Gibson, I don't know. I mean, this plays lovely. The action's lovely on it now. I've set it up. So it is beautiful, this guitar. I was going to do a test with it in a mix, but I soon realised once I'd done it that I'd adjusted the amp for the mix and, you know, the equalisation, etc. And it sounded exactly the same, so there was no point. So you can make this sound how you want with EQ, like you can really with most guitars. But a natural sound is what I tried to do. Just set the amp at the same for both, which is what you heard. I mean, there's not a lot in it. I've done a test on a few friends and they've not guessed it correctly. Not both times anyway. So that speaks volumes to me. There's slight differences. There's no thumb bleeders, but so what? You can add them. The bridge and the stop bar is slightly different, but so what? The scratch plate screw, slightly different, but so what? I mean, all these things. The pickups are not as good, maybe. They're different sounding, definitely. They're probably a bit hotter in the Gibson. But overall, you got to think the Gibson's £2,000 more expensive. So, I know where my money would go. I'm lucky enough to be able to afford a Gibson this late in my life. And I bought one, so maybe that's what the urge was. But I've had Gibsons, you know, Les Pauls, SGs, lots go through my hands. I've never had a Gibson 335 that I owned. I've repaired a few, but never owned them. I owned one now, and I know what I'm going to do with it. It's going to be put up for sale, because it just doesn't warrant the extra money, I don't think. I only record at home. I don't gig. I wouldn't really feel comfortable taking a Gibson gigging anyway. I'd rather take this, so there really is no need to have it other than the prestige of having a Gibson, which I've had. So it's going, and this one's staying. But I'm telling you, whether you can afford a Gibson or not, do not pass these inspired range by. They are fantastic. One of the best Epiphones I've ever played. Anyway, I hope you got something from this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.